Got the whole world in your hands.
Hello, here's Bharat from Palmistry Unplugged. And I'd just like to say in the beginning that now available is a paperback edition of my book, of the third edition, which has just come out, and you can you can buy that, have that sent to you from Amazon, also as an ebook. It also can be downloaded also from iBooks and Nook. So it's all available as an ebook with those three firms, and you can through Amazon have a paperback copy of my Palmistry book, which is now titled A Comprehensive and Reflective Guide to the Human Design of Hand Reading. And I talk about that more and more, about how the palm is actually a map. It's a biocomputer readout. It's showing a human design, how we function. And and one actually talks about the lines. What are they? They're it's called these. What are they called? The Passium corpuscles. And these are like little molecules that are in the hand, and when the electric current of the brain comes in, it actually forms the lines. It's this Passium, I don't know if I have the correct pronunciation, of Passium corpuscles, and that actually forms the lines. So the lines are not due because of the crease. I once talked about this once before, but it is because of the bioelectrical field that is in the hands, in your body, in your aura, in your electrical field. So I just want to make that clear. So more and more I'm seeing that as our human design, and I use it more and more. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the lifeline of the three primary lines. Remember that, as you can see in the diagram. We're going to talk about the lifeline, and the lifeline is, as what it's saying, it's showing the course of the life, how it's going from when you're born into when you die. So it's just showing these sort of general energies that are available to you. It's just it's like which canal of life you're sailing through. And that'll show like periods of abundance and periods of lean periods, periods of weakness, periods of strength, when there's influxes of energy, when there are outfluxes of energy or losses of energy, illnesses of energy, when there's protection around you, when there's weaknesses. So it is showing the general course of your life. And it's more or less like your ego story, the story of you, your personality. And that can be strong and that can be weak if you have a really strong lifeline or not. So again, the ideal line, not only for the lifeline, but for the headline and also the hotline, is a continuous line without breaks. So the lifeline, as you can see in the diagram, it starts below Jupiter, towards the, it should start on this side of the palm, not the back side of the palm, or the side of the palm, and then it runs across, and then it curves down and goes around the Venus, more or less it goes around the Venus mount, and it can end in several different ways, which we will talk about. So that is showing the general course of your life. Okay. Now the beginning of the line, that is showing how you enter into the body. So if there's a really good connection with the body as your soul comes into the body, actually when your soul comes into the body is another point that one could discuss. But when the soul comes in, how it is connecting with the body is important. And also you can see sometimes, like a example in my hand, at the beginning of the line, you'll see several lines coming together. So also you can see the lifeline as a ray of creation. This is the energy, this is what created you. This is the energy, the force, or whatever you want to call it, that helped you to reincarnate into this life. So it's like one can see it as a ray of creation, and sometimes there's more than one ray of creation that is coming together to form your incarnation. and that is particular. Has particular meaning, which we'll talk about later. But right now, we're just talking about the general course of the life. Now, this is on a timeline, starting with when you're born as 0 to the line runs across the hand, and when it starts turning down, this is like the early childhood, teenagehood, adolescence, young adulthood. Middle age, old age, and the end. The golden years in the end. So I'm not like a detailed person, even though my hands are, I could get into detail, but I like to keep it at 10-year increments. So I'm not like many Indian palmists or Indian astrologers would want to have exact at the age of 22 you're doing this and that. That's actually not my interest. My interest, if you've been following me, is more or less looking at who you are, and general phases is what I'm looking at. For me, it's important whether your childhood was stable or was unstable, whether you had, a good father who was actually conducive in your development or not, for example, because the lifeline is masculine, and it is showing a lot, especially in the early part of the line, it is showing a lot about the father and the relationship with the father and the material life, which is male, which the mother can be included in that. So we will be talking about that. And normally, we will talk about the lifeline and the headline can run together for a while, and then they split up, which is the most people. Also, the headline and the lifeline can run separate from the beginning. But with that point where they separate is usually the time when a person leaves the house and becomes independent. That is around the age of 21. So I do take that as a landmark, in fact. If you look at the Jupiter finger, between the Jupiter finger and the Saturn finger, and you drew a straight line down, and that point where it intersects with the lifeline is usually, to me, the age of 21. And I find that to be, of all the indicators of age, I find that to be the most accurate. So also when the head and the lifeline are joined together, when they start to split and run their own way, that's also around the age of 21. What do you think? When leaves the family and goes out there, which varies with different societies, of course. In Australia, people leave the house much earlier. In Europe, where rents are very expensive, the child stays more in the house. So that there are variations in that. But I find that to be the most accurate, and then from there, I make my calculations and increments, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, so that is how I'm looking at timings of the life. But there's another thing that you see. This is the lifeline and the hotline and the headline. They're on timelines, okay? They're timelines. But on the same time, they're not timelines. They're just how the life force is flowing through a person. From the beginning, this is the way the life force is flowing through the person. So if it's a strong, good line with some redness in it and some humph, as they say, this is strong. This is the way your life force energy is going to flow with it, whatever you're doing in all the time. But if there's a lot of weakness in the line, if there's breaks in the lifeline, it means also that the lifeline will always occur, these weaknesses at certain points when it's flowing. That it will be leaking at that point. Or if there, so that's a consideration that 1 second it is on the timeline. Like you can have, let's say, an island on the lifeline, and that, let's say, at the age of 40, and so there's going to be a weakness at that point. And also, if that island is in the hand, that means as the life force energy is flowing through the lifeline, when it reaches that point, there's going to be a weakness. So it's both considerations. Okay, so Now, I think I will come back because I just wanted to do a sort of a general consideration. So this whole area here, that's on this side of the lifeline, this is more or less your level of awareness, or the area of your consciousness, or the area of your horizon. So when somebody has a very narrow, the lifeline is wrapping down very narrowly, they have a more narrow out point of life, as opposed to somebody who has a really wide arc of their lifeline. Their increases, that means their scope of awareness is much bigger. So so I wanted to get that in. So we'll come back the next time. We'll start getting into a little bit more detail from the beginning of the lifeline towards the end of the lifeline. So this is Bharat from Palmistry Unplugged, and we'll see you at some other point, hopefully soon. Okay, thank you very much, and signing off. Thank you.
Got the whole world in your